T. Higgins, who was franchise tagged, has now requested a trade.
He's not happy with his contractual situation.
Every situation is unique. Every situation is particular to a player. There's not an overall, this is our process. Take each situation as it comes.
I would be very, very surprised if Cincinnati gives him an extension of the kind that he wants.
It's going to be hard for them that already have paid Joe, paid Jamar, and T. Higgins.
It is considered a long shot that any type of long-term deal will get done.
It is deadline day in Cincy. After an offseason of drama between T. Higgins and the Bengals, the deadline that turned the franchise tag into a long-term deal has come and gone for the Bengals wide receiver. Dan Graziano, what does that mean now for Higgins this upcoming season?
Well, it means he'll be an unrestricted free agent when the season is over. I think he's made his peace, it seems like, with playing on the franchise tag. Earlier in the offseason, he had demanded a trade. The Bengals said, we're not interested in trading you. We're trying to keep the team together as long as we can and win a Super Bowl. However, what he was looking for in terms of a contract and what they were willing to offer, especially with Jamar Chase now eligible for an extension and Joe Burrow having signed one last year, was not the same. So it reminds you, Kevin, of 2 years ago, the Bengals franchise safety Jesse Bates. He wasn't happy. It took him a while to report to camp, but he did. Played out the year, played great, and got a big free agent contract from the Atlanta Falcons the following spring. I don't know if it'll be the Falcons or what team, but I would guess a similar situation plays out with T. Higgins.
Okay, and that's how we start the show. Welcome into NFL Live. You just heard Graz, Mina Kimes, Tim Hasselbeck as well with us. I'm Kevin Nagani. Higgins' future is not the only big question mark in the Queen City. No matter who the Bengals have had, slow starts have been a huge theme here in the Joe Burrow era. In Burrow's 4 seasons, he's posted a below-average QBR over the team's first 5 games, and the team has been 3 games under 500 in those starts. The rest of the season, Burrow has looked like an elite quarterback, and it's worth noting that he's often entered the season with an injury problem, including last year's calf injury. So that sets things up well. Graz, what do we know about Burrow's health heading into camp?
Indications are positive throughout the offseason. He's coming off of that wrist injury and a surgical repair. It's an odd injury. It's an uncommon one, right? If you're coming back from an Achilles or an ACL, those are tough recoveries, but at least we know what they look like. This is not an injury we've seen with quarterbacks on their throwing hands. So the Bengals will continue to monitor it. So far, so good. Their hope is that he can have a full training camp. You mentioned it, Kevin. 2020, there was COVID. 21, he was coming off ACL. 22, he had his appendix out. And last year, calf injury. So he's never had a fully healthy training camp. They would like that to be the case. That said, if he feels something in that hand, that wrist, they'll back him off as need be. But their plan going in is to try and get him to the season healthy and get him as much work as they possibly can in camp.
Okay, camp starts next week. So what's the biggest question, Mina, for this offense they need to answer early in the season?
Well, aside from Joe Burrow's health, mobility, all of that, one thing that I'm really curious to see is with T. Higgins back, as we all expected, who is the third option on this offense? Which doesn't sound like a big deal when you're talking about an offense that features Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but here's why it matters, Kevin. Something that Joe Burrow has talked about is over the last few years how increasingly, because of that elite wide receiver duo, teams play the Bengals with those too high shell coverages. Over the last 2 seasons, when the Bengals have faced split safety coverages, Jamar Chase has been the #1 target, unsurprisingly, but after that, it's been Tyler Boyd in targets, Joe Mixon, and then Hayden Hurst. Those 3 players aren't on the Bengals anymore. So somebody is going to have to emerge to help them, especially work over the middle of the field, where Tyler Boyd in particular was so important for Cincinnati.
Yeah, Mina makes a really good point because it can't always just be those 2 receivers and no one else. I mean, typically you need somebody to play inside, somebody that can win, individual matchups, and they need to do that. Now, listen, developing that is different than developing a top-tier wide receiver, like the premier outside guys, which they have 2 of. Look, I think this, with Burrow healthy and a lot of the stuff that Dan talked about in terms of, not having to deal with health injuries going into the season, you would think that would lead to a faster start, which means you're, keeping pace with a really tough division. But when healthy, with 2 elite wide receivers, with an offense that should be, sufficient in terms of running the football, look, they're absolutely a contender in one of the toughest divisions in all of football. And, like most teams, it does depend on the health of their starting quarterback.
Tim, to your point, last year's AFC North was the first division in the Super Bowl era to have every team finish above 500. Two-time MVP Lamar Jackson arriving in camp looking leaner, looking to get over the hump in the AFC. They lost both coordinators. They brought in running back Derrick Henry. Okay, that's the good. This team did lose Patrick Queen to the Steelers. They added on defense in the spring, taking cornerback Nate Wiggins in the first round. Mina, how does Wiggins fit in this offense? I should say defense. Defense.
Or defense. Yeah, it's easy to see why they picked Wiggins based on his college tape at Clemson. He has the movement skills to play sticky man coverage, but he also has the intelligence, route recognition, eyes to play the sort of zone you'll see him play a lot in that Ravens defense. He's also a playmaker. He's so good at keeping eyes on the quarterback and then closing to drive on the football. He plays with a sort of physicality I think we associate with the defense. For me, the biggest question mark is a question mark that would be an issue regardless of where he plays, and that's just his size. I think the reason why he didn't go early in the draft is because he's tall, but he's very thin, and I think he'll be challenged from a tackling perspective early on, so I'm curious to see whether he rises to the occasion there.
All right, let's get to the offensive side, what they did in the draft. They went tackle in the second round, Tim, combined with some departures in free agency. This will be a new look O-line in Baltimore. Do you like what they've done here so far?
I do, and I think it's important, when you're talking about young offensive linemen, you just think about this Ravens offense. A lot of what they've done, historically in the run game, and I would expect it to be the same, in terms of what Lamar Jackson brings in the run game. Because you get an added number, it oftentimes gives you angles in the run game. And so because of that, I think in terms of breaking in a new offensive line, playing younger players, it helps you. I would also say this, just when we look at the offense as a whole, from where they were a year ago to where they are now, so much uncertainty about what would the offense look like with a new offensive coordinator. Well, Todd Monken comes in. Here comes Lamar Jackson. He really, really develops as a passer. And so now with that, new players on the offensive line, but I think it's just a group as a whole that's much further along offensively, especially just as a quarterback, with the quarterback, than they were a year ago this time. So I actually think they're going to be better. And then obviously Derrick Henry, that element is big as well.
No doubt. I mean, look, Henry is the guy that the sort of the key get for them this offseason. And when you look at the Ravens and what they've done offensively, over the last 5 years, they are the top rushing team in the league by a mile. 167 rushing yards per game. Second place is, oddly enough, Tennessee, where Derrick Henry came from, at 140. Now, through that time, in spite of being the top rushing team in the league, the Ravens have not had a singular running back on whom they could rely. Lamar Jackson has basically been the centerpiece of their running game. They don't want him to have to be the centerpiece of the run game. They like the idea of Derrick Henry being that, and being a guy in particular, as their offensive coordinator Todd Monken said, who can be a closer, who can help them finish games when they have leads in the fourth quarter because of his running style, because of the way he sort of outlasts a defense in terms of stamina as the game goes on.
I'm really excited to see Derrick Henry in this offense. I think Tim made an excellent point how even with the departures on the offensive line, because of the presence of Lamar Jackson, it's such an advantageous situation for a running back. What I'd like to see, though, that I didn't see last year, the Ravens did play more 11 personnel last year, meaning 3 wide receivers on the field. But when they did so, they almost never ran the ball, despite facing favorable run looks. Hand it off to Derrick Henry. You're facing light boxes. You're facing sub packages on defense. There will be opportunities here for him to get explosive runs out of those looks.
All right, to your point, I can hear the entire Baltimore fan base going all the way back to their last game. Run the football! Run the football against the Chiefs, please, in the second half. Something we didn't see.
The team changes, and the guys that stick around need to kind of assume ownership positions. And you think about, you lose your center, you lose a star receiver. You've lost, really good players on the defensive side of the ball. Look, it's time. It's time now. They've put a lot on him physically, in terms of what they ask him to do in that offense. But I also just think from a leadership perspective of how you prepare this time of year, throughout the season, how you respond to adversity, they need Josh Allen to be the guy that is leading the way because, truthfully, the locker room is going to look his direction. So that is good to hear. It's not surprising, and it really is the best thing for the Bills going forward.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar, right, to a couple of years ago when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes had to take a little more ownership of the offense, bring the receivers along that were trying to replace him. Josh Allen, he got a sneak peek of what they think this offense can look like late last year when Joe Brady was the interim offensive coordinator. Now he's got the job full time. They expect Dalton Kincaid, their young tight end, and James Cook, their young running back, to be two key playmakers for them, especially while they sort out the wide receiver room, right? Like, what is Curtis Samuel's role going to be? Can Keon Coleman contribute as a rookie, and in what way? Is Khalil Shakir ready to take a step entering year 3? Any of the veterans they brought in, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, can they get anything out of those guys? But while they figure that out, watch Kincaid and watch Cook as two guys that Buffalo really wants to try and lean on.
I think all three of you guys are on the same page with Josh Allen, but not everyone is sold on Allen. One veteran NFL executive had some pretty harsh words and some criticism of the Bills quarterback. They called him one of the more overrated players in the NFL, immense talent, but he makes a lot of mistakes. He's underdeveloped at winning at the line of scrimmage, tends to lock on to targets, more of a thrower than precision passer, forces throws into traffic. Mina, what do you think of that assessment?
It's stupid. Sorry. I mean, it is. I mean, that guy's wrong. First, I'll start, I guess, with the kind of overarching sentiment, which is that he's overrated. Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL. I disagree with the earlier rankings. That was the survey of the executives. I don't think it's particularly close, to be quite frank. And nobody was more wrong about Josh Allen coming out of the draft than yours truly. But I have seen a player who's not only has an unbelievable arm talent, of course, that's what you lead with, but has grown so much. His work at the line of scrimmage, I completely disagree with that. His accuracy, there are games where he's displayed tremendous patience, throwing underneath. His command of the offense is tremendous. At times, he can turn the ball over, but I don't think it's because of a mental issue so much as it is him maybe trusting his arm a little bit too much. But you take that small amount of bad because it comes with so much good. I haven't even addressed what he brings on the ground, which is, I think, why he's second best quarterback in the NFL. On a down-to-down basis, he's as efficient running the football, actually more efficient than Lamar Jackson. And finally, he gives you availability. He's healthy. He's played so much for them. So to me, that's just a nonsense quote. But, you know, I guess you can find a nonsense quote about any quarterback if you ask enough people.
I agree with you. I mean, I think you can almost pick apart every single part of the statement. It's not like you just disagree with one thing. And part of it, like, just look at it this way. In terms of playing in critical moments and stuff, look, he's actually done that at times, and then his defense just didn't follow through. And so, like that's actually happened in the past. Didn't happen this past year, but that's happened in the past. So there's that part of it. The part of it, too, that Mina brings up as a runner, which I think is key, as well as the availability, it is really hard to be an accurate passer when you're also a runner. And so what he's done in that realm has been remarkable. The thing I think I disagree with the most of that comment is his command at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
There have been a stretch of times where he's been as good as anybody at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, that's a bizarre statement for me.
It's kind of like you get a Ferrari and complain about the gas mileage. Like everyone's got flaws, right? But like the thing about Josh Allen is the good does outweigh the bad so much. I mean, the Bills are 68-35 when he starts. Like, everyone's got issues, but he's really good at overcoming them and helping you win games anyway. So obviously it's an outlier quote because otherwise he wouldn't be ranked third. But, you know, quarterback evaluation, subjective.
As an ardent Philadelphia Eagles fan, the discussion surrounding Eli Ricks and his uncertain spot on the 2024 53-man roster is both intriguing and nerve-wracking. The depth in the Eagles' secondary is a double-edged sword, presenting both an opportunity and a challenge. Let's delve into the nuances of Ricks' situation and analyze the strengths and complexities of the current roster dynamics. Eli Ricks, a rising talent amidst intense competition. Eli Ricks, an undrafted rookie in 2023, quickly captured the hearts of Eagles fans with his impressive pick-six against the Baltimore Ravens in the preseason. His journey from an undrafted free agent to making the initial 53-man roster is a testament to his talent and determination. Ricks' ability to step up amidst injuries to key players like Zech McPherson, Avonte Maddox, and Darius Slay showcased his readiness to seize opportunities and contribute significantly on both defense and special teams. Defensive contributions and special teams impact. Ricks' performance last season was commendable. He played 301 defensive snaps and 212 special teams snaps, proving his versatility and reliability. His contributions on special teams, especially during critical weeks, highlighted his value beyond just a defensive back. Special teams play is often an underrated aspect of a player's role, but Ricks demonstrated his importance in this phase of the game, making him a valuable asset. The numbers game, an overflow of talent. However, the Eagles' cornerback room is currently stacked with talent, making the numbers game a daunting challenge for Ricks. With James Bradberry, Darius Slay, first-round pick Quinyon Mitchell, second-round pick Cooper DeJean, Isaiah Rodgers, and Khalil Ringo seemingly locking up 6 spots, the competition is fierce. Avonte Maddox, despite his injury history, and Josh Jobe, a special teams standout, further complicate the situation. Roster decisions, balancing talent and potential. The Eagles face tough decisions when it comes to balancing experienced players with high potential and emerging talents like Ricks. While Ricks' cap hit of just over $1 million is relatively modest, the dead cap hit is minimal, making it financially feasible to part ways if necessary. However, the potential loss of Ricks to another team if placed on the practice squad is a legitimate concern. His performance has shown that he belongs in the NFL, and losing him could be a missed opportunity for the Eagles to nurture a promising player. Future prospects, coaching and development. Ricks' ability to thrive in the NFL hinges on proper coaching and development. His journey thus far has proven that he has the skills and mindset to succeed. The question remains whether the Eagles will be the ones to continue honing his talents. The coaching staff's ability to maximize his potential and integrate him effectively into the defensive scheme will be crucial in determining his future with the team. Conclusion: a delicate balancing act. Eli Ricks' situation epitomizes the delicate balancing act the Eagles must perform when finalizing their roster. The abundance of talent in the secondary is a blessing, but it also necessitates difficult decisions. Ricks' journey from an undrafted rookie to a potential roster cut underscores the competitive nature of the NFL. As fans, we hope to see Ricks' continued growth and contribution to the Eagles, but the reality of roster constraints cannot be ignored. The upcoming training camp and preseason will be pivotal in shaping the final roster, and all eyes will be on Ricks as he fights to secure his spot in Philadelphia.
Vídeo do presidente do Corinthians com torcedor do Cruzeiro. Polícia analisa a imagem. Briga aconteceu após a partida do Mineirão. O torcedor registrou o boletim de ocorrência, gente. Meu Deus, o negócio foi sério. A imagem do circuito interno de segurança mostraram, o momento em que o presidente do Corinthians, Augusto Melo, toca com a mão no rosto do torcedor do Cruzeiro, João Daniel Mihomes. É Mihomes? Isso, acho que é isso. O caso aconteceu após partida neste domingo no Mineirão. Segundo o torcedor, a agressão ocorreu quando ele foi levado ao seu filho Albares, em uma área próxima do camarote onde a diretoria do Corinthians estava, e neste momento ele alega ter sido agredido. No final do jogo, meu filho de 8 anos pediu para eu comprar um suco. Eu me dirigi aos bares que estão atrás dos camarotes e nesse momento estava passando o senhor presidente do Corinthians, com uma série de segurança muito seguras. Intimidador, inclusive, disse ele, Quando a torcida toda do Cruzeiro entrou na brincadeira, chamando de segunda divisão, essa brincadeira de torcida, e eu falei que ele seria o presidente que rebaixaria o Corinthians. Ele se dirigiu a mim muito nervoso e me agrediu na frente do meu filho, que presenciou tudo, ficou muito triste. Eu não revidei, mas depois fiquei com um pouquinho nervoso, né, e falei que eu prestaria queixa. Não porque ele ganhar alguma coisa em cima, não preciso disso, mas que essas pessoas entendam que elas não podem fazer o que querem. Eles têm que respeitar as crianças e têm que respeitar também as pessoas. Realmente, né, ele tá certo. Tem gente que é meio sem noção, acho que pode tudo. Mas enfim, né, seguranças particulares do estádio interviram na situação. Na sequência, o torcedor se dirigiu à delegacia do Mineirão para prestar o depoimento e registrar o boletim de ocorrência. Bom, gente, essa foi a notícia. Espero que todos tenham gostado e entendido. Não esqueçam de deixar o like e se inscrever no canal também. Continue nos acompanhando, né? Ative aí o sininho aí. Enfim, gente, obrigado por todos que ficaram até o final. E até a próxima. Deschamps admite que Mbappé segue lutando para se adaptar à máscara visão modificada. Bom, gente, técnico da França comenta a situação física do astro que foi substituído na prorrogação diante de Portugal. Substituição de Mbappé em meio à prorrogação do duelo contra Portugal levantou a preocupação de um estado físico do craque francês antes do confronto contra a Espanha, valendo a vaga na final da Euro 2024 na terça às 4 horas horário de Brasília, gente. Mas o técnico Didier Deschamps garantiu nesta segunda-feira, véspera do conforto, que a camisa 10 estará em campo, mesmo que se acostumando com a nova condição. Bom, Perdão, gente, li errado aqui. Acompanhe Espanha versus a França em tempo real no GE às 16 horas, no caso às 4 horas desta terça-feira, na TV Globo, Esporte e GE, que transmite a partida. Ele tinha jogado 110 minutos, sabendo que foi cansativo. Não acho que Kylian esteja mal fisicamente. Ele continuará em campo. Vamos deixá-lo descansar o quanto precisar. Fizemos tudo o que pudemos. Estou convencido que o Mbappé está com a cabeça e o corpo no lugar, como todos os outros jogadores. Tem também a ver com a situação dele no clube, né? Com um problema nas costas, a questão no nariz também. Ele só precisa se acostumar com as novas condições de jogo e acredito que ele fará de tudo para dar 110% amanhã contra a Espanha, disse o comandante francês, que completa 12 anos no cargo nesta segunda. Parte da nova condição, a qual o treinador se referiu, diz respeito à máscara que Mbappé vem utilizando desde que sofreu uma fratura no nariz, no duelo contra a Áustria. Ainda na fase de grupo, Deschamps admitiu que a camisa 10 vem sofrendo na adaptação e proteção, reiterando que o jogador precisará se acostumar, depois dele ter que usar o recurso por muito mais tempo. Já como jogador do Real Madrid, o atleta iniciou o treino nesta segunda-feira na Arena de Munique, sem a máscara. Bom, essa foi a notícia. Eu espero que todos tenham gostado e entendido. Obrigada a cada um que ficou até o final. Não esqueçam de deixar o seu like, de se inscrever no canal também. E até a próxima.